Hello ladies and gentlemen, Adam Steele here from Hot Pole Studios, although you will see that I'm clearly not in the studio. So, what's happening? Today I wanted to discuss the fact that a lot of YouTubers, a great deal of YouTube content creators, don't just do this full time. The money that you get from YouTube isn't really enough for most people, again apart from the very small percentage, to make a living. So let's talk about that. So, this is the bar where I work during the evenings. I also do run the Hot Pole Studio during the day, right through the week and through weekends. And you would probably think, well, yeah, you run a studio. Surely that should be able to be enough to pay you to not have to do a second job. And in some ways, I suppose it could be true. But where we are in our part of the world, there just doesn't seem to be enough business in the studio world to solidly be booked all the time. And here's the thing, I'm not a teenager anymore. I'm in my 30s, I'm running a small business, but at the same time, I have quite a few bills to pay. I now have a 9-month-old baby daughter, and we've got bills to pay, nursery, all that kind of stuff. And like a lot of YouTube, I don't know about the word celebrities, but YouTube personalities, I started this channel to get some attention for the studio, and also as something that was fun. It's a lot of fun. I do like doing it, and if I could make a living off it, great. But it's time to be honest about numbers. Our most popular video, the Reaper 101 tutorial, which by the way I'm planning on reshooting soon in a more professional way because that was just kind of a webcam thing. It's turned out to be the most popular video, which is weird. Has had over 200,000 views. So you think that's massive. You must make loads of money off that. No. Being completely transparent with you, we make about $50 a month off that. Which sounds like a lot, and relatively speaking it is, but it's the highest earning video that we have by a long way. And that's not enough to make a living off. And the studio is doing okay, but like I said, sometimes we'll be booked out for weeks at a time, and sometimes there's nothing. It's mostly the fact that I've found with bands that they're very flaky. That they decide, we're going somewhere that's cheaper, which is always a different discussion, but not great. Or, we decided not to record because reasons. Or, we're doing it at home with GarageBand. Those are generally the bands that don't tend to go anywhere. But that's, again, a different discussion for a different day. The industry is changing. And then, of course, the studio has its own bills to pay. Like the studio, which I still treat as a separate business, has to pay its own rent. Any equipment that we need to buy comes out of that money. Wherever possible, I try not to take money out of that, just to be sure, because I worry a lot. I'm a worrier. And I always worry that we're going to run out of money one day and that we're not going to be able to pay the rent and bills, and suddenly it's all going to have to close. So to try and stave that off, I have been a qualified chef for a long time. I've always kind of had parallel trajectories. And you may have seen a couple of years ago, I did a video from a very different bar when I was living in a very different place. And so this is Monday at a bar that I run, quote unquote. I'm not the owner, I'm not the manager, but on Mondays, this is what I do. I also work weekend evenings for them wherever possible. And it's stable. And that's the thing that I wanted out of a job like this, is I'm quite capable of doing this and have been for a long time, but I know that I can come here, I know what I'm doing, at the end of the night I finish doing what I'm doing and I go home and I've not got a load of things on my mind about it, whereas with the studio and the YouTube channel, I'm constantly thinking, how can we improve this? How could I change that mix? How could that video have been better? What about the next 10 videos that we've got coming up? Which I do, and I dedicate my brain space to it, aside from the other time when I'm looking after Ivy, my little daughter, and that makes for a very busy life. Now, a lot of people who don't do YouTube stuff think, how do you find time for all of this? Surely you must have hobbies. And the studio is my hobby as much as I want it to be my main thing. It's my passion, it's my obsession, it's what I do. And that's the kind of thing that even when I was a full-time chef in my early 20s, after I'd had my first recording studio and that all kind of didn't work out, I would go home and I'd be mixing until 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, and then getting told off for being tired all the time. So if I wasn't doing that as a job, I would be doing it anyway. So I may as well try and be the best that I can be and do the best that I can. Camera decided to stop, that's annoying. Where were we? So this whole channel doesn't make very much. It makes about $200 a month, which sounds like loads, but it's not when you think about, when you've got to pay for a full income, when you've got to pay your rent, and you've got to pay for nursery, and you've got to pay for bills and food and all that kind of stuff. And yes, my partner works as well, although she's been on maternity leave for 9 months, so she only goes back to work tomorrow, actually. So yeah, it's been a rough ride. But yeah, I used to work for a media company who were doing quite well, and I was doing fairly well, and that all kind of petered out because of some bad business deals. Me and the guys who we work with are still great friends. It wasn't that we collapsed, it was that everything collapsed around us. So that's why I went back into bar work and chef work and that kind of thing. But that was at the same time as running the studio, which was quite convenient and worked well. But the studio, especially the YouTube side, wasn't very big at all. I think at that point, I stopped working for that media company just before we hit 1,000 subscribers, and here we are at nearly 20,000 subscribers. So yeah, it's been a journey. But while I'm thinking on that, actually, let's make sure that's not in frame. While I'm thinking on that, if anybody is looking for a marketing manager for social media or that kind of thing in our industry, do feel free to give me a shout, because that is what I did for a very long time. It's what I'm quite good at, and I'd be quite keen to get back into that. But yeah, give me a shout. As far as doing what you love, it can be a strain to try and turn your hobby into a living. When people say, oh, you should do that all the time, you're really good at this, people don't understand that there's a lot involved. When you turn what you love into a living, it then comes with all the baggage. Like, I have to every year do tax returns. I have to make sure that everyone's properly invoiced. I have to make sure that the bills are paid for the studio separately from my own personal bills. I could take money out of the studio to pay for my own bills, but I'm a worrier, and I'd rather make sure that something stable was keeping a roof over my head whilst also making the studio work. If we get enough business into the studio over time that can then solidly pay my own way, great. But that's something that it's kind of on the horizon, but especially where we are as a studio, I don't know if I said that already, where we are, there's not really a big band scene anymore. And that's the thing, there aren't enough clients in this area to keep us going. Not that are willing to pay studio prices anyway, because a lot of them will pay bedroom prices and get bedroom results and not be successful because they sound shocking. And that's something that, that's what we've got to contend with in this industry at the moment. It's not as if there's no other choice to recording music than to go to a studio. That doesn't mean that the other choice is the right choice, but it does mean that people have a choice, and people usually take the easier, cheaper option. And why would you not if you don't know what the difference is? And also, a lot of studios that I went to as a kid, and I can't see it being much different now, you would go and you would end up with a product that was not very good. And so you'd spend all that money and end up with something that you weren't very happy with. And I do know, actually, from some of the clients that I've had in the studio, that still seems to be the case. I'm certainly not naming any names, but there have been studios not too far away from where we are, where people go and the results are not satisfactory, where people aren't going to really know unless they come to us, but we aim to make things the best they can be. And that's why we then pass on the information through YouTube, because then it's about enlightening people around the world. And also getting awareness out there. There was a band that approached us a couple of years back who had found us through the YouTube channel, who wanted us to mix an album for them. That went exceptionally well. And very recently, another band they work with did a very similar thing, which went even better. And it looks like we're going to be doing more albums with them as the kind of remote mixing kind of thing. So that's very much becoming an option, where YouTube means that people can watch me work, they can watch me explain what I'm doing. They still not necessarily can do what I do, but not because what I do is difficult per se, quote unquote, but because I've been doing this now for quite a long time, so it's kind of in my DNA that I can get a result like previous work I can show you in a relatively short amount of time. They don't want to pay for a big room with lots of expensive stuff in it, because as I found out when I was younger, the whole reason I got into being a recording engineer is that gear doesn't operate itself, and that if your engineers don't really know what they're doing, you get a sound that sounds like nobody really knew what they were doing. So yeah, I think I've come to the end of this train of thought, but yes, YouTube doesn't pay enough by default. We're looking into advertising, but not selling out. That's a tricky thing, because we want to have brands that we've worked with, that we're very impressed with, that we like their stuff and use their stuff, give us a bit of money to advertise their product at the start of our videos, because that's the kind of thing that is mutually beneficial, because then they get the advertising space in what is a relatively niche market, but to the target audience. We wouldn't do that with any companies we don't feel comfortable with doing that with, but at the same token, that also then means that if we know that they have good products that make good results, anybody who then goes and buys that should have a similar experience, which means that everybody's going to feel good about that. So that's the kind of thing that will hopefully help us in the future. We now cut to several hours later as it suddenly got busy. But whilst my train of thought was derailed, I just want to sign off there, because this is just kind of a bit to camera. Any questions you've got about, how to make successful money as a YouTube personality, I may not be the person to answer at this particular time, but as the next couple of years go on, we're really going to get more involved in the YouTube community and see if we can't, do guest spots for other people and have guests on our shows. So hopefully that'll help us to grow and make this a full-time thing rather than a part-time thing. So I hope you found this educational, and maybe we'll see you in the future. If you've not subscribed to the channel already, please do, because that really helps us to grow, because then more people will be likely to watch the videos, and that makes it more worth us doing more of that kind of thing. It really helps to grow the channel and let us do more for you. So thank you everybody for watching. I'm Adam Steele for Hot Pole Studios, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.
Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this, feel free to check out our other videos, as you can find here, or check out our Facebook and Twitter, or our Patreon page, which helps us to make more videos like this. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.